Hello everybody, I am back with another chaotic book club. This one's going to be kind of short because as you can see I don't have that many notes on it. Today I'm going to be talking about Pandemonium by Lauren Oliver. This is the second installment in the Delirium series, which basically, to sum it all up into one really brief summary. The story across all the books is set in the United States in an era in which love is considered to be a disease. So what happens? The citizens kind of have to fall in one of three camps, which is, let's get that surgery, babe. It's kind of giving vaccines, like, in a way. The second camp would be to just, like, not to be called an invalid. And then in this second, I believe it is in this one, but, like, I've read them all, so to be honest, I can't, it gets a little blurry, right? But I believe in this installment is when we find out about a whole other place that people can choose if they don't fall into either of those, let's say, parties. Or let's not say it, whatever. So, oh, here's one. Oh, yeah. So, like I said, I don't have that many notes on it. I can't recall if did I do a video on Delirium? I really deadass can't remember. But, if not, we're just gonna have to go with it, baby. So the first note that I had comes on page 20, and let me just read a little bit for you. Okay, so the main character, her name is Lena, and she, right now, to give you some context of, like, the quotes and things that I'm giving you, she's eating breakfast with her, like, found family, sort of. Lena is talking to, like, the camp leader, whose name is Raven. She beams at me. Yeah, Roach is the resident cook. He can make a good meal out of anything. Well, he can make an edible meal out of anything. And then Lena says, Roach? Is that his real name? Raven finishes a braid, flicks it over her shoulder, starts on another one. As real as any name, she says. Roach has been in the wilds his whole life. Originally comes from one of the homesteads farther south, close to Delaware. Someone down there must have named him. By the time he got up here, he was Roach. So this is, like, to me, it's giving Divergent. I read those books in college, and I really liked them. And what's his hair? There's two other points outside of, like, it's giving Divergent that I wanted to make. And this is about the names. So there's two things, like, I wanted to point out that it's giving Divergent because, like, there's the part when Triss is, that's the main character, she's having to, like, choose, and this does fit very much into the camp of, like, plain girl has hot man babes wanting her all of the time, which was very much a characteristic, like, of this time period, right? Like, we got series upon series upon series. People my age, I am 30, by the way, and in my age group, why were they feeding us this stuff? I mean, like, I don't know, whatever. Anyway, point being that these sort of stories set up really truly what is, like, an adolescent's first time having, like, a choice in their identity. And I think that while a name is, like, really just that, like, it's kind of just like a word that we call ourselves, it's really not. Like, in my opinion, I've always said that I think your name is, like, the most basic form of identity that you really can have. And I do think that it it's really telling, like, in these books, the characters changing their names is like a literal way of them changing their identities. Obviously. And then I wanted to also make the point about a nickname when Lena says, Roach, is that his real name? And Raven says, as real as any name, which is kind of funny because, like, we have this idea of your real name or like a nickname that people get. And in these books, people often get nicknames given to them based on either like physical attributes or personality or an event that happened to them or something like that. You know what I mean? Nicknames are usually for a reason, and they're typically not self given, they are typically given by your peers. Ultimately, like, that's where a lot of naming systems kind of came from. For example, like, what little I do know about Native American cultures is that they would give their babies names based on either the season or the scenery around them when they gave birth, or maybe some names are, I don't want to say given in hopes that the baby will have those attributes, but also think about names like Grace. Just things like that. Actually, there is a Gracie, in this book. Not the point. Those were just a couple of tangents that I wanted to go off on in regards to names. The next little marker I have here, the set. The girls are all like finding their new little home. Context for this marker, the camp, well, not the camp, the group, I guess you'd say, is having a little look-see through their new, where they're going to set up for a little while. And this says, a church? This surprises me. In Portland, our churches are made of steel and glass and clean white plaster walls. They are sanitized spaces, places where the miracle of life and God's science is celebrated and demonstrated with microscopes and centrifuges. And all I wrote was just, yikes, LOL, because, like, God's science is not science, in case anyone has any questions about that. And I don't want to say lastly, because there's two more little points that I have to get to. This whole situation is giving current US politics. Now, mind you, I read this book in the beginning of the year, so things have really heated up and ramped up since then in not a good way. And let's just say I was already thinking that this is giving modern day, which is kind of, I don't know, feel like there's irony in that, or maybe just like sadness, I'm not really sure. But there is a new character in this second book, and his name is Julian. And the main thing to point out about him is he is from a very wealthy family. His dad's a politician. And now Julian's all mixed up in this group of invalids. And they're like stuck underground. It's a whole thing. Is this when they're being held captive? Obviously. Why do you think they're keeping us here, he asks. Ransom, probably. It's the only thing that makes sense. Julian fingers the cut on his lip, considering this. My father will pay, he says after a beat. I'm valuable to the movement. And, like, my father will pay. It's giving, like, I am not worried because I have always had the comfort of having money, which doesn't inherently solve your problems, but, like, money solves a lot of problems that people without money have. And then lastly, I just put a little, like, a heart marker tab, because there's just a little, like, Lena's, like, reflecting. I don't say anything. In a world without love, this is what people are to each other: values, benefits, and liabilities, numbers and data. We weigh, we quantify, we measure, and the soul is ground to dust. And actually, I probably would have not ever picked that phrase out. But I thrifted this book and it was already like highlighted, and I just thought how sweet that that was the only thing highlighted in the whole book. And it just made me feel connected to the last reader or whoever highlighted that. That's part of why I think that a lot of issues today are happening, because if we rewind to like, oh, a little less than 100 years ago, that was something that was happening in the world as well. People were reduced to non-human, and that's what is happening now. Maybe not the same groups, not in the same country. When people are just reduced to, you know, like this book literally said, numbers, data, figures, whatever. When you lose your humanity, it makes it easier to like stomach throwing you away. And that's something that I think we as humans need to be really cautious of. Does this make sense? Anyways, that was a long, much longer video than I thought that it was going to be, but please thumbs up if you liked this, and I will try to have more coming your way. Okay, thank you, bye.